Violent Skies puts you in the cockpit of the main fighters during the months after the invasion of France, starting with the aerial operations over Dynamo, the Dunkirk Evacuation, to the Battle of Britain and the last daylight bombing raids as the Blitz starts. You'll be flying sorties, shooting down bandits, and trying your best to survive. This game, and others in this series, can be picked up at Wargame Vault. There will be links in the video description. And full disclosure, I was given a free copy of the game for review purposes. Violent Skies has a BGG rating of 8.5, a complexity weight of 2.0. The designer is Ben Rawlings. He is also the artist, and he is also the publisher with Pocket Warfare Publishing. Violent Skies was released in 2023. Here's a look at the core rulebook for Violent Skies. You have your introduction, a sequence of play, bandit counter layouts, the sortie card and tables, campaign tables, sortie rules, postgame, and optional rules. I do like that it's nice and big, easy to read. Here's your quick introduction. You might need some dice. Your sequence of play. Now, you'll notice it says asterisk for campaign play only. So your weather table, takeoff table, spotting table, landing table, and post-game are all if you're playing the campaign version of the game. Your sortie cards are all you're going to need to play a dogfight. Now here is the detail of your bandit counters. These are part of your sortie card. Here is an example where you've got your aircraft, your bandits, some events, some actions, your campaign tables. This is what you're basically going to be using when you're playing the game. This just gives you some details. Again, here's your sortie card and campaign tables, and then some details on the campaign tables. And then your sortie card, and it talks about placing your dice for markers. A little detail on your player actions. They're also listed on your sortie card. And we'll get into this when I do an example of play. And then your bandit actions. Again, nice big fonts, easy to read, and winning the game. So campaign game is a little different than a dogfight, but in a dogfight, obviously you win if you survive. Now, at the time of this recording, I did not print out my logbooks, but if you're playing the campaign, you want a narrative style, you've got a logbook that come in a low ink, black and white version, or a color version that you can keep track of your adventures. I think that's a nice little add to the game. Now it does talk about experience points. Again, this is going to be in your campaign game. And then what you do, there is a table here where you spend your pilot skill points. 5 experience points get you airmanship 1, for example. There's also ace skills, and that's talked about in the rules, where you will apply either pilot skills or ace skills, and then you have an experience tree to skill out. Very nice. Optional rules. This again is part of the narrative aspect, getting your various awards, wound badge. Hopefully you don't get that. And some of your other bars you might get. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to slide that. And then little reference on the various ranks that you can put into your logbook. There's some Air Ministry optional rules here in the back for when you take damage, if you want to get a little more detail on the damage you take. And then here are the counters that you can also print out and cut. Now, I'm going to give the same critique I give to all of these print and play games. Give us some space. These are 3 different counters. Now, they're meant to be cut and folded, but I'd rather if all 6 of these had either a black, thick border that allowed me to cut and have some variance, because I don't always cut straight, or some just white space that I could then cut and trim when I put it onto cardstock. And I find that comic book backing cards are really great for these print and play games, and they're fairly inexpensive. You can get a backing card for about $1 at any comic book shop. In Violent Skies, 1940, Dynamo to the Blitz, you get 9 different aircraft to fly. We're going to take a sneak peek at the sortie cards, but keep in mind, for each of these aircraft, you get your campaign tables, your player reference cards, your experience tracker card, and any optional rules from the Air Ministry. For the Spitfire, we get 2 versions, the Mark I and the Mark IIA. The Mark I covers May to August 1940. The Mark IIA covers August to December 1940. We get 2 versions of the Hurricane. Both are Mark I, but they have different stats, as well as a different roster of German fighters as opponents. First version of the Mark I covers May to August 1940, and the second version covers August to December of 1940. We have 3 versions of the Bf 109. There's the 109E3 and then the 109E4. There are 2 versions of the 109E4, and I'm not sure what the differences are. I've looked at the sortie cards, and other than the paint scheme, I don't notice much of a difference between the 2. The 109B3 is from May to August, and the 109E4s are from August through December. And lastly, there's 2 versions of the Bf 110C. One covers May to August, and the second covers August to December. And again, the main difference is going to be the bogeys that you encounter. We are going to step through the provided example of play. If you happen to have the game and want to follow along, go ahead and pause the video and get yourself set up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our energy and our endurance with what is on our sortie card. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to roll for our altitude, and we get a 4. That puts us at medium altitude. We're going to place a token on the disengaged box, and then we're going to roll for a bandit. We roll a 2, and then we place the disengaged card, or the engaged card, pointing at the bandit that we're fighting in this dogfight. Next, we roll on the event, and we roll a 5. Now, the example does not have the dice rolls, but it does say that the event resolves with no hits for the flak event, and in which case, we either take the effect of the event, which there isn't any, or we move this to the neutral on our engagement. We're now ready to move to the player and the bandit actions. So for our player action, we're going to choose to gain position. The sortie is happening at medium altitude, so we roll 2d6 for the player's agility with a 2 hit of 5 or more. Then we reduce the energy by the bracketed number. So here's our agility at medium, 2 dice, and 2 is our bracketed number for the energy. We rolled 2 5s. Our target number was a 5. And so we gain an advantage and we move it up the track to advantaged, and we use 2 on our energy. It is now the bandit's turn. As the player is advantaged, the bandit will perform a gain position action. The bandit rolls 2d6, but only 1d6 if hit. Currently they are not hit. The bandit rolls a 2 and a 4. They needed a 5 or higher. So the action is unsuccessful, and the player's advantage remains unchanged. The bandit's action ends the turn, and the endurance is reduced by 1. It's now the player's action, and if we choose to do a gain position, we could move to on his 6th, but we're going to choose to shoot. We roll 3d6 from our gun dice. We roll a 2, a 1, and a 5. The 2 and the 1 are not higher than the bandit's airframe rating of 4, but the result of 5 is higher, and we flip the engage counter to the hit. Bingo. Nice. It's now the bandit's action. As the player is advantaged, the bandit will perform a gain position action. The bandit rolls 1d6 because they're hit and needs to roll a 6 or higher. The bandit rolls a 6 on a 1d6. The bandit needed a 5 or higher to be successful. They are successful, so we move the advantage down to neutral. This also ends the turn, and we reduce our endurance by 1. We're now down to 4. It is now the player's action. We are neutral against our target and low on energy. And we're going to play a wingman action card, or chit. It is now the bandit's action. As the player is neutral, the bandit performs a gain position action. The bandit rolls 1d6, rolls a 6 and needs a 5 or higher, and the bandit roll is successful. The player moves down to disadvantage from neutral. This ends the turn, and the endurance is reduced further by 1, down to 3. It is now our player action. We are disadvantaged, and we're going to choose to use our wingman counter. This is going to allow us to perform 2 actions this turn. The first action, we're going to unload while descending. So we're going to lower our altitude to 1. Unload, gain energy equals to power rating, optionally +1 when we descend. So we look over here and we have power at +2. And the +1, because we descended, gets us +3, which now gives our energy up to 5. For our second action, we're going to gain position. We're going to roll 2d6, and we're going to choose to use the special section in the pilot's notes to gain +1 dice modifier for an additional -1 energy spent. We roll a 3 and a 6. With those modifiers becomes a 4 and a 7. A 7 is successful, and we move from disadvantage to neutral. And we've used our wingman. That also cost us 2 energy, so we're now down to 3. It is now the bandit's action. As the player is neutral, the bandit performs a gain position action. The bandit rolls 1d6, again being hit, and they roll a 5. Needing a 5 or higher, the bandit's roll is successful, and the player now moves down from neutral to disadvantaged. The endurance is reduced by 1. We're now down to 2. It is now our player action, and as we are disadvantaged, low on energy, and with only 2 endurance remaining, we're going to choose to disengage. To disengage, we roll dice equal to our agility, and at low altitude, that is 2. We roll a 5 and a 6, which is higher than the bandit's altitude rating, and so we're successfully disengaged. If we were neutral or advantaged, we could disengage without a dice roll. So at this point, we can either end the sortie or set up from another bandit roll. But because our endurance is low, we're going to choose to end this sortie, and in this example, we'll play here. Hopefully this was helpful, guys.
Violent Skies by Ben Rawlings and Pocket Warfare Publishing is a solitaire campaign game of aerial warfare that is a core system ripe for expansion. In fact, the next extension to this game is already on War Game Vault. There will be a link in the description to Violent Skies 2, 1941 RAF on the Offensive. So what I really liked about this game system is the sortie card. Once you get the core rules down, you have everything you need to play basically on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I love the way the encounters are specific to that aircraft for that time frame. I find that innovative. I haven't seen that done before. Maybe it has been, but I haven't seen it. So I really like that. The game plays fairly quickly. So if you're crunched for time, you can sit down and knock out a dogfight fairly quickly. Fill out your logbook, do your bookkeeping for your campaign, and then move on to whatever else you need to do that day. Like play more games. And as always, Thank you for taking the time to check out what I do here on the channel. Please put a like on the video, leave a comment. I always respond to the comments. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe to the channel and help me grow. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Goodbye for now.